And I have at the very bottom, as you probably noticed, of my emails, it says, you are on an email list. And so if you do not wish to receive any more information from Real Focus Training, reply to this email saying, please unsubscribe. Although I have to be very honest with you, I still feel a little sting when I see a please unsubscribe come through my inbox. And I honored where I was at. And I said, Brenda, you're feeling rejected right now. You're feeling like you're not okay. You're feeling like somebody doesn't like you. And you're feeling like you're offering something to the world and they're saying no thank you. And you're taking that personally. That's what you're doing right now. Yes, darn tootin', that's what I'm doing. That's what I said. Where's this coming from? And then all of a sudden, out of the abyss, this little memory floats up to the top of my awareness about when I was in grade 6. Clearly, had this vivid memory of sitting in my music class. And I'm singing my heart out. I think we were singing 4 strong winds that blow lonely, and I was just belting it out. And my eyes were closed, and I was just getting into it, just really letting myself get into that. Not only do I feel the music, but that's what's been modeled to me as I've grown up. I come from a very musical family, and music is the way for us to express. It's a way for us to come together. So to me, music equals love. Music equals coming together. Music equals belonging. It's the one space where we can all be happy and agree on something. So it was a very good and peaceful memory for me. But what I remember is, after I gave my rousing rendition of 4 Strong Winds, afterwards, a friend of mine, who I thought was a friend, says to me, you just think you're just better than us. We look at you, the way you close your eyes, and the way you think you're better, don't you? And actually, you can't sing that well anyways. Well, as a 12-year-old, you feel a little sensitive, especially coming from someone you trusted, especially coming from someone who was your friend, right? Someone you cared about. And so I took a step back and I made a decision that it was more important for me to belong than it was for me to do something that was going against the grain. And that sort of was part of the many steps. And there were some other things that had happened up to that point, but that was a significant thing that happened to me where I just really withdrew. And I just said, you know what? I'm just going to keep this for me where it's safe. Because it's not safe to express. There's something wrong with it. I never, at 12 years old, thought that possibly it could be her problem. So today, when I get the please unsubscribe across the email, I remembered those feelings. And I remembered that feeling of rejection, that feeling of, I've done something wrong. What if this isn't about you, Brenda? What if the center of her universe isn't your smiling face? Because when we're trying to make someone wrong, or we feel wrong, we're coming from what?
Fear.
Fear, lack, limitation, confusion, ungroundedness. Where do I fit? Who am I now? Just because what you're offering is not being received doesn't mean you're wrong. It might mean they're not ready. It might mean that they can't hear you because they're not there yet, right? Because we're all at different stages at different times in our life. And can we not remember a time when somebody was telling us something and we weren't ready to hear it, and then we hear it again from someone else and go, oh, wow, that's a novel idea. Meanwhile, this person's going, I told you that. But it's like you're hearing it for the first time, right? I think we've had those issues with our moms a lot, right? I told you. I know, but I wasn't ready to hear it. And I watched this I was raising kittens, and my mother cat was afraid of the vacuum. And so I was thinking about this. It's interesting because I was like, I don't want them to be afraid of the vacuum because she is just so terrified of the vacuum. So what I did is I locked them in the closet. I don't know what I was thinking, but I locked them in the closet while I was vacuuming with her. So imagine what kind of conversations they're having in there. See, it's really bad. She had to put us to safety. As a result, those kittens were terrified of the vacuum. They just were. There was no reason. It wasn't like I chased them around the house with a vacuum. Is that our fear does not have to paralyze us. We can transform it into moving us forward. The heart starts going, right? Pits start sweating, right? Hands maybe start sweating.
Knees start shaking.
Knees start shaking. Yeah, dry mouth.
Fight or flight.
Fight or flight, yeah. We kind of go into that response,
Yeah.
don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're preparing ourselves for protection or the battle, right? A young girl is wearing a mask on her face so that she doesn't get the swine flu. She is just getting over pneumonia. And the doctor has suggested to wear this mask. And this is quite a common thing in places like Thailand and, Bangkok and Seoul, and you see it all the time, the pollution, right? But in Fort St. John, maybe not so common. Kind of like an umbrella. What are you doing with that? Well, it's pouring rain. Don't want the dew to get messed. Yeah, but it's an umbrella. We don't use umbrellas in the north. I do. In a grocery store. And she gets her groceries, got the mask on, gets her groceries, goes to the checkout line. And the girl throws her hands up in the air and says, "I'm not serving you. You could have the swine flu." And she did not say it that nicely. She really reacted out of fear. And ran away. I'm out of here. And she left. Meanwhile, this girl is standing there going, like, what did I do wrong? Like, oh my God, what do I do now? Very uncomfortable. Very not okay. Very unprofessional, and all those things that go along with that. But she was reacting from fear. Do you think her motivation was safety? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Do you think her motivation was to totally embarrass the customer?
No.
Absolutely not. But interestingly enough, when I first heard the story, I was like hands on hip, tapping my toe, thinking about calling that grocery store, because I went in because I wanted to make her wrong. And so maybe freedom is about opening up our possibilities. For me, that really rings true. And opportunity, too, maybe. Does that feel right for you guys? But what if it was also the unknown? Interesting. And you say, how could we be possibly thinking that that's a bad thing to be free? It's bad because it's unknown. Well, quick little story. How many people here have seen Shawshank Redemption? Okay, some people have. For those of you who haven't, it's a great movie. It has a great point in it, and it's about these hardened criminals that after an extended stay as incarcerated human beings, they're set free. And at first that's very exciting, and then the reality hits. Who will I be in that new space? And unfortunately, as played out in the movie, many of them chose to commit suicide because they just couldn't redefine themselves in the space of freedom. So when we are working through our fears, and when they bubble up to the surface and we go, oh, I'm afraid of that. Wow. I thought I had a long enough list that's about 2 miles long. Okay, I'll just add that on here. I'm afraid of that too. But when when it bubbles up, it's an opportunity to look at it, to renegotiate, to revisit, to say, does this work for me still? And you know what? Sometimes it does.
girl.